August 23, 1864. Victory secured. The Union Army secured a strategic victory in the American Civil War by capturing Fort Morgan, Alabama. This event was a critical moment in the Battle of Mobile Bay, one of the most important naval engagements of the war. Fort Morgan, located at the entrance to Mobile Bay on the Gulf of Mexico, had served as a major Confederate stronghold. Its capture severely weakened Confederate defenses and advanced the Union's blockade strategy, marking a turning point in the war's Western theater. Fort Morgan was constructed between 1819 and 1834 as a coastal defense installation. By the time of the Civil War, it played a vital role in protecting Mobile, Alabama, one of the last major ports under Confederate control. Mobile was a hub for blockade runners that supplied the Confederate States with war materials from abroad. The Union's Anaconda Plan relied heavily on cutting off such supply lines by gaining control of key ports. As long as Fort Morgan stood, the Confederate forces retained access to the Gulf, making it a prime target for the Union Navy. The campaign to capture Fort Morgan was part of a larger operation led by Rear Admiral David G. Farragut. The initial attack began on August 5, 1864, when Farragut's fleet entered Mobile Bay under heavy fire from both Fort Morgan and Confederate naval forces, including the ironclad CSS Tennessee. It was during this engagement that Farragut famously ordered, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead," as he led his fleet past underwater mines, then called torpedoes, and into the bay. The Union fleet prevailed, defeating the Confederate squadron and gaining control of the bay. However, control of the bay alone was not enough. Fort Morgan still commanded the entrance and remained an obstacle to full Union control. Following the naval victory, Farragut and his forces turned their attention to the fort itself. Brigadier General Gordon Granger landed troops on Dauphin Island and besieged the fort from the landward side, cutting off supplies and bombarding the structure with artillery. The naval forces joined the siege, bombarding Fort Morgan with heavy shelling from the sea. Over the course of 2 weeks, the fort suffered extensive damage and its defenders were gradually worn down. On August 23, Confederate Brigadier General Richard L. Page, who commanded Fort Morgan, surrendered the garrison to Union forces. Roughly 600 Confederate soldiers were taken prisoner. Though Page attempted to destroy ammunition and supplies prior to the surrender, the fort fell largely intact into Union hands. The fall of Fort Morgan completed the Union's control over Mobile Bay, rendering the port useless to the Confederacy and further tightening the Union naval blockade. The strategic impact of the capture was immediate and far-reaching. With the port of Mobile effectively closed, Confederate trade was further choked, undermining the South's ability to sustain its war effort. The loss of Fort Morgan also had a psychological effect, damaging Southern morale and highlighting the increasing effectiveness of Union military strategy late in the war. The operation demonstrated the growing coordination between the Union Navy and Army, a critical development in combined operations that would be used repeatedly during the final months of the conflict. The capture of Fort Morgan was one of Rear Admiral Farragut's final major actions during the war. His leadership during the Battle of Mobile Bay elevated him to national prominence. Later that year, he was promoted to the rank of Vice Admiral, becoming the first person in United States history to hold that rank. The victory at Fort Morgan solidified Farragut's legacy as one of the Union's most effective naval commanders. In the broader context of the Civil War, the fall of Fort Morgan symbolized the gradual collapse of the Confederacy's coastal defenses. It marked the beginning of the end for the South's ability to conduct overseas trade and maintain strategic flexibility along the Gulf Coast. While the city of Mobile itself would not fall until April 1865, the loss of its bay severely undermined its utility as a military asset. Fort Morgan's capture on August 23, 1864, was thus a decisive blow in the Union's campaign to control the Mississippi Valley and the Gulf of Mexico. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. You can own a piece of history.